happy Thursday afternoon Facebook Live on Bottom Line Inc.'s Facebook page. I am Sarah Hiner, and thanks for being here again. We are back today with Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum, and we're going to talk about sleep today. Let me just remind you all, if you have questions that you want to ask the doctor, please, please, please post them on in the chat line, and we will get them to me if I can get my little phone all set up, my high-tech system here. And also, you know, this is now the third live that I've done with Jake. We've talked about immune, we've talked about treatments for COVID and coronavirus, treatments and testing. And we've also done a few other ones about emotional challenges. I just did one on the other day from inside the ICU with the doctor that's been treating patients inside the ICU at Stanford Hospital, which is one of the central places. It's been one of the hotbeds in Connecticut and in the Northeast. So that was a great conversation we had. If you want to hear what's really going on, what they're doing, how they've learned about the disease in the last 8 weeks. So it's been a really interesting conversation. So all of those, actually, you can see them. They're in the Bottom Line page on Facebook. They're also in our YouTube channel, if you want to go check that out. We have actually hundreds of videos in our YouTube channel. Great bottom line tidbits. So be sure to listen, come back. We're going to keep doing these and share these. Tell your friends about them. All right, let me tell you once again about the great Jacob Teitelbaum, who is here with me today. He is coming from he's so happy all the time because you're from Hawaii. You're in Hawaii and it's beautiful. Board certified internist, holistic physician, and nationally known experts in the fields of chronic pain syndrome, fibromyalgia, sleep, and pain. And sleep actually underneath so many of these things, so many of our challenges. He's the author of numerous books, including The Fatigue and Fibromyalgia Solution and Real Cause, Real Cures, which Bottom Line is going to be promoting, selling. I think we launch it in about 2 weeks. So super excited about that. He also has a great app called Cures A to Z. That Cures A to Z, free for iPhones and Androids. And this is a great app. It's literally a list of hundreds of diseases and what you should do about them. So check that out, and that is free. And so the topic of the day is sleep. And I don't know about you, but whether or not you've had sleep problems, about what tens of millions of people, 45 million people or so, have trouble sleeping on a regular basis. And this pandemic, oh, by the way, not helping people sleeping for all sorts of reasons. So we thought it would be a really great topic to talk about. So welcome, Jake. It's always great to see you.
Sarah, awesome to be with you and with the gang tonight. And we're going to teach you today why that 8 hours sleep a night is the best time that you are spending each day and most important for your body. I remember growing up, Sarah, when I was a kid, I used to think that sleep was a waste of time. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
And boy, I was so wrong. So
I would say that Americans, we wear our lack of sleep like a badge of honor. Right. It started in college, or it started in high school, right? How late did you go to bed, right? Because you always want to go to bed later. And then you go to college and you're proud if you pulled an all-nighter, you're a hero, right? You pulled 3 all-nighters in a row. And then even as, you know, through adulthood, that somehow we feel like we're lazy if we're sleeping too much. And, but it's not true at all. And this was a major kind of smackdown in my face, because I've always been one of those, you know, I got things to do and not a huge sleeper. And it's really a slap in the face, like, holy crap, in terms of how much work our body is doing. And no, you're not lazy, and no, you're not wasting time to get a good night's sleep. So can you please sell everybody on the concept of sleep? Like, it's fascinating how much happens in your body and how hard our body's working while we're sleeping.
Absolutely. Sleep is not just a time for regeneration of the body, because we're recharging the batteries, we're recharging energy. Our road crews are out fixing everything that's going on. That's the time our body does its repair. So if you're wondering why you're depressed and down and anxious, well, your brain neurotransmitters didn't have a chance to recharge. Do you wonder why you're in pain? The road crews weren't out fixing those little muscle micro tears. And a major cause of chronic pain in this country is inadequate sleep. You wonder why your brain doesn't work? Same thing. But there's another bigger piece there that we don't talk about as much. We are taught in our society to be so kind of brainy smurf. It's all about the mind. You know, yeah, you can have feelings, but we laugh at them, poo-poo them, put them down. We're still a patriarchal society in that way. And sleep is when it's kind of like when our spirit, our psyche gets to be itself, run free, and process everything for the day. Because if you haven't processed your experiences and you're just running into the next one, you're going to be disconnected. And sleep is a big part of connecting to yourself.
Yeah, well, and also, I mean, I find when I go from event to event to event to event, that without having a moment of quiet, and we really have very little time of quiet in our lives between, screens and work and Netflix. I've talked to a number of people that say, they could go to bed earlier, but they're so caught up in their, Netflix binging, and they have to watch the whole series at one time. They're going to bed late, and you don't have that quiet to just let the body absorb and do.
Mhm. That's the funny thing about the Netflix and the shows. Use it to your advantage for sleep. Don't watch something new, or don't watch something that's like going to make your adrenaline pump.
Right.
Find something that's mindless, that you've seen 20 times before, where you could say the words with everybody else, and let that be kind of like when you have a kid and you have your bedtime routine. They watch the same movie over and over, so they drift off while they're doing it. It's funny. My wife does that. It was kind of an interesting period when she used to do that to Family Guy. But for other shows, it's kind of yeah.
Yeah.
She'll watch Friends for the 400th time, and it can use it as a sleep tool
Yeah.
instead
Well,
of watching new stuff.
and we'll talk about some of those tools later on. And does that, but while we're talking about that at the moment, like, does that also, a lot of people will talk about they've got busy minds, and that lets your
Mhm.
mind kind of, step out of that, distracted just enough without becoming engaging.
Exactly. It creates a time for calm,
Yeah.
something very predictable, very almost boring, but enjoyable. So your brain
Just
can
enough.
disconnect,
Yeah.
you know?
All right, let's go back though to some of those things that our body's doing. So it is like it's rebuilding those tissues that are breaking down. Is I think there's a huge, what's the number, like the cell turnover in our bodies every day? It's like,
Uh, Massive.
right. It's a huge percentage of our bodies that, are sloughed off and die and regenerate. The other thing is actually also weight gain. That
Hmm.
if you don't get enough sleep, talk about that for a moment, because I don't know about you, I put on a pair of jeans today and I went, thank goodness they fit, because I wasn't quite sure. Um,
Uh-huh. Well, if it's not enough that you're going to have a brain and you're not going to be in pain and you're going to have energy, if that's not enough for you, the research shows that not getting enough sleep is associated with a 30% higher risk of obesity and an average 6.5 pound weight gain.
Over
So
six and a
if
half pounds over when? Just a year?
that's in general, if they take a look at people who sleep
Yeah.
X number of hours versus who sleep more, those
Mhm.
who get more sleep weigh 6.5 pounds less. So they didn't
Right.
measure it over the period. But if you want to be a size smaller, make an extra 2 hours of shy for yourself. Get your 8 hours of sleep a night, or whatever feels best to you.
And there's a reason that's happening. There are two hormones. There's ghrelin and leptin. One of them that suppresses your appetite, and one of them that increases your appetite.
Yes, those two and growth hormone, those three together, are will cause your weight to go down, your appetite to go down. But the growth hormone also turns fat into muscle. So not just will the weight go down, but you're going to stay. The studies show you're going to look 10 years younger if you have the good levels of growth hormone that you get from, well, sleep, sex, and exercise, those three.
Right.
So all of these things contribute to the weight loss, and you're just, you know, not aging. You're basically staying young or younger
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. No, it's funny. And I like details. So just, specifically like the leptin, which is something that makes you eat less. When you're
Hmm.
sleep deprived, you have less of that. And when you're
Hmm.
sleep deprived, you have more of the ghrelin that increases your appetite. So
Hmm.
we're dialing our chemicals in the wrong way.
Hmm.
All right. So hopefully I've now convinced everybody, we've convinced everybody that they should go to sleep. And what's the optimal amount? I mean, ideally.
Well, everybody varies. It's like asking what is the optimal shoe size. So I can say on average it's going to be about an 8, but you want to tailor it to yourself. So let me give some perspective first. The average night's sleep in the United States, average, until 140 years ago when light bulbs were invented, was 9 hours a night, average. So that'll give us a good idea historically what our body wants. It used to be 11 hours a night if you go back 1,000 years
Well, was that
ago.
also, let me ask you though, I mean, was it 9 hours a night because life was more physical then as well? I mean,
I think it was 9 hours a night because it got dark and people went to bed.
mhm.
Candles were pricey.
But like now, now we're sitting on our butts watching Netflix, and
Mhm.
versus where even just cooking dinner was far more physical. Like every life was more physical.
It was. And that wouldn't hurt us either, but that'll be a whole nother show.
Oh, you mean movement and exercise is good? I had no idea.
if it's fun. So the thing is, so how do you tell what an optimal night's sleep is for you? So we know 8 to 9 hours is probably going to put you right in the mid-range of optimal for most people. But take a couple nights and just sleep without the alarm clock in the morning and see how many hours you sleep. You'll take the first 2 nights and clear out some sleep deficits, and then see where your body naturally wakes up and how you feel. And that will tell you what's optimal for you. So if you sleep 7.5 hours or 9 hours, whatever it is, and you feel good the next day, that shoe fits. That is what's optimal for you.
So let me ask you this. There's a period in the evening when I feel really tired.
Hmm.
And then I will push through it usually. That's usually like between, I'll call it 10 and 11. And if I push past that 10, then I get a second wind. Like if I don't go to bed by a certain time. So is there also, while they're doing this exercise, to pay attention to their sleep, like how they're feeling in the evening, and go with that? If your body feels tired, try going to sleep then,
Hmm.
so that,
Exactly.
because otherwise, again, I force myself often because I have one more thing I have to do too. It's not Netflix, but there's always one more thing.
Mhm.
So is that part of the formula?
Yes, because there is a natural phase and a period where your body will go into this, okay, I'm ready to take off into sleep. And you don't want to miss the bus. And if you do, it'll come around again and again. But when you're getting around the time that you want to go to sleep, listen to those cues, but not just listen to the cues, create the cues with a nighttime routine. It's just like when you put your kids to bed when they're little. You didn't tell the girls, hey, let's run like crazy and off to bed. You had the routine where it's, okay, let's watch the Little Mermaid or whatever the thing was, the same thing over and over again, the same
Right,
bedtime stories. And that cues the body to create that ready for sleep now.
right. And
And
we'll talk about the sleep hygiene and all of that. Now,
mhm,
some people get, in a minute, I want to talk about the sleep problems and the different causes. Some people have a hard time falling asleep. Some people have a hard time staying asleep. I find I don't want to get anyone to feel pressure on themselves. Like different people have different body clocks. I know, so I'm mostly a 6 to 7 hour person. I'm just not an 8 to 9 person.
hmm,
I've heard of people that are 4 and 5 hour people. Like it's just how they are. Um, and I don't want people to have stress if they're not an 8 hour person, right? That they shouldn't get anxious, or if they have a hard time falling asleep, that they shouldn't get anxious about that.
hmm. Yeah, well, it's not a matter of being anxious, and certainly don't make this one more should on yourself.
Right.
Well, I should be this, and I should be that, and I should do the other, and I should get this much sleep. Don't spend the day going around shooting on yourself, please. It's just this is something you get to do, and there's no right or wrong to it except what works for you, what feels the best. So play with it. And if one thing didn't feel the best, no beating yourself over the head about it. Just, oh, okay, just notice and then try something else and just notice, see what works.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like again, we talk about this in a number of our things about paying attention to your body and really listening to your body. And
Hmm.
it's hard to do when you're busy rushing around.
Yeah.
Can
That,
naps offset some sleep deprivation?
yes. Most of human history until the Industrial Revolution, people would have lunch and they would nap for an hour or two. And that's so I think that's a pretty healthy thing, but the factory owners didn't want you doing that, so we kind of broke that habit. So yes, it's okay to nap, but don't nap too late in the day or you're going to disrupt your sleep. So a natural time for napping is after lunch because the food and digestion triggers the sleep cycle. So just go with that natural flow of things. Have your 45 minutes to an hour, set a clock to wake you up in an hour after the nap or whatever feels best to you, and often be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed the rest of the day.
And is the nap restorative the way that overnight sleep is?
I'm a micro napper. I can take a 4 minute nap and
Right.
it just totally recharges my batteries. So nobody's that I've seen has looked at the sleep cycle stages, but
Hmm.
an hour gives long enough to really go through a complete sleep cycle and recharge the batteries. The bottom line is, because you wake up and especially if you splash some cold water on your face to turn the nervous system back into the adrenaline system, it is restorative.
Gotcha. I have to apologize to everybody. Of course, the gardeners decided to be outside, so I'm hoping that you can hear me okay. Um, so anyway, so yes, I apologize for that. bad planning, worse planning. Anyway, all right. So let's talk about sleep problems and the different causes of them. Again, there's different. There's you have trouble falling asleep, you have trouble staying asleep, and then you wake up early.
So for those who have trouble falling asleep, number one is that expectation of going from high adrenaline to just out cold. Your body doesn't work that way. So you want to set up the sleep routine, and just like you would for your kids, make something enjoyable for that hour before. No stress, not heavy thinking. In the wintertime, a hot bath with even a cup of Epsom salts in it, or just watching a show you've watched 100 times. Just find something simple, a glass of wine, and yes, it is okay to have a drink before bedtime. Just don't have five of them because it'll disrupt your sleep. Find a simple routine that this is your reward time. Now, a lot of you are going to find that even doing that, you're going to bed, it's 9 or 10 o'clock, and your mind is wide awake and racing. In fact, you may find my brain is gone all day and I'm tired all day, but now it's wide awake and when it's time for sleep. And that has to do, especially if you get irritable when hungry during the day. About a quarter of people do. They get hangry. And especially in the news media world, that goes up to about 50% or more because of the deadlines. Um, then what's happening is your stress hormone is supposed to be high in the morning, about 18, and go under 1 at bedtime so you can sleep. Otherwise, you can't fall asleep. And if your mind is racing and wired, then you need to bring that cortisol stress hormone down. You can do that very simply. There's something called Sleep Tonight is a nice product that does that. Any phosphatidylserine, 100 to 200 milligrams. You take that about an hour before bedtime, 90 minutes before bedtime. It'll bring down the cortisol stress hormone so your brain can go off duty so you can sleep. But when you have that, it's also very common that so think about this. You get irritable during the day when hungry, wired at night, and wake up 2 in the morning. This is all adrenal fatigue. The adrenal hormone, the day-night cycle is thrown off from the stress of your life. So for the falling asleep, if your mind is wired, the Sleep Tonight or other phosphatidylserine product, but if you just have trouble disconnecting and falling asleep, there are herbals that are wonderful. My favorite mix is a mix of 6 herbs called the Revitalizing Sleep Formula. There's another one called Terrific ZZZZ. You can do them both together. Melatonin can be very helpful. So just simple things can leave you sleeping like a kitten. And these things help you fall asleep and stay asleep. So it's not hard. And even for those of you with severe insomnia, you have these simple tools that can knock you out and leave you feeling great.
Let's talk about, and I'm sorry, the noise outside so sent me off I had my own brain problem for a moment. Let's talk about the besides the supplements and the foods that can help you fall asleep. What about, let's go back to that the nighttime hygiene, right? So the evening routines and how important that is, and should people again find a bedtime the same way we did for our kids, and then outline, I'll call it the ideal routine, evening routine for people.
Yep. Our body loves routine. It likes predictability. It likes to know what's coming when. So, and it's just like for those of you who have kids, you know the importance of a bedtime routine so your kids can sleep and you can be sane. And the same thing for us as adults, we're just big kids. So like I said, find the time. It doesn't have to be exact, but roughly about this time of night, I'm going to disconnect and stop doing things that are worrying, paying bills. You know, are you going to have your kids watch a horror movie before bedtime? No. And if you think of the way the news media has become today, God bless them, the good people, but their main goal is to scare you to death and make you hate everybody. It doesn't inform you. I don't care which side of the aisle people are on. It's a fiction meant to scare you and make you angry so that you watch 24/7. They can sell the advertising. Don't watch that before. Now, the other thing is people say, I have no time for sleep. So, Sarah, what I like people to do is to start with a simple exercise. And do this right now. If you're sitting by a piece of paper and a pen, folks, just take that paper, make 2 columns. On one side, put things that feel good. On the other side, things that don't feel good, that you spend time on in your life. So if watching the news, do you feel good when you watch the news? I know I can watch it for about 3.5 seconds before I'm gritting my teeth. Put that in the doesn't feel good. Going to committee meetings to waste everybody's time, whatever it happens to be, put that in the doesn't feel good column. And then anything in that column that you're not going to be arrested or homeless for not doing, uh, start to disconnect from those.
To reduce the pressures and get all that constant angst out of us.
Yeah, let it go. Stop putting your energy, focus, and time into. I used to be the chairman of the board and on the board of like countless committees and stuff. And I dragged my sorry ass home one night again at 11 o'clock. And my wife said, "How was it?" I said, "It was an utter waste of time. You had people with a collective income of $20,000 an hour spending an hour arguing about spending $10. I finally slapped a $10 bill on the table and said, 'Next.' And she said, 'Why do you do it?'
Yeah.
And it was like this light bulb went off. Ding!
You know,
And it
it's
was like,
that's a hard thing because you want to also contribute to the community. You want to,
mhm,
if you've got kids, you want to be involved at the
mhm,
schools. If you're in a community, you want to be on the board there. You want to be involved with the HOA. You want to, have your clubs and for
mhm.
social connection, it's really important to people. But it
But so
definitely,
here's the trick, Sarah. So that's why I didn't say the things you think
right.
you should do on the top of the list. I said the things that feel, FEEL, underline, bold caps, feel good versus those that don't. So one of the things I was doing was starting a new school, and I was the chairman of the board and chief of fundraising. That was a passion. I love that. I kept that, dropped every one of the other ones.
Right.
You'll be amazed how much stuff we do because we think we should, but ignore what your brain's saying. How does it feel? If it feels good, that's your psyche's way of saying it's authentic, go with it. But the ones that don't, snip, snip, cut loose, take time for sleep.
It's funny, actually. This is a little bit off topic, but you know me. I
Mhm.
had a friend when it came to charitable donations. Everyone's always got their hands out, and he would pick one or two that he could do something significant with, rather than $10 here, $10 here, $10 here. And I think the same thing goes here. Pick your one activity that you really want to commit to and be heavily involved with, rather than bake for the cupcake sale and collect for the silent auction and do the greens keeping in the town gardens, whatever. Like, pick where you can really deeply get involved, and then you don't have as many all the frenetic pulls as well.
Yep, and that's one trick as well. For me, like I say, I let my intuition guide me, and to me, the brain isn't the intuition; it's the feelings are kind of the language of intuition.
um
So,
how
so
about
go with what feels
screens,
best.
Jake? How about
Mhm.
the blue light on the screens and stuff? There's a lot that people say, get off the screens because that's agitating your brain, and or wear blue light glasses.
I think blue light glasses seem a bit excessive. Most of the phones these days will have an automatic nighttime setting
Hmm.
that will tone down the blues and go more to the sepias and the other colors that don't do that. So I think that does play some role, but I don't want people tiptoeing and walking on eggs through their life worried about all these little things. I'd rather have just some broad common sense things. So yes, if I'm watching TV at night, I'm not worried about the color of the screen. On my iPhone, I'm going to have the setting go ahead and put it to where it's not too bright light at night. It'll do that automatically. So just some simple, easy things, and that will make a difference.
I know a couple people that will have a drink. I don't know if you said this while the blowing was going on. Have a drink before they go to bed, or marijuana has become a very big thing.
Hmm.
So are those, historically alcohol is not a good thing before you go to bed because it actually, you fall asleep and then you wake up. And then how about marijuana, which is supposed to be such a, relaxing thing?
Okay, so as far as alcohol, people throughout recorded history, it's not been uncommon to have a drink before bedtime. And one drink before bedtime, or even two, I think it's fine. It's when you start going to higher levels that it disrupts the sleep cycle and you don't get the deep sleep stages. Um, Marijuana works brilliantly for sleep. If you don't want to be arrested if you're in a state that has that or whatever, the hemp oil. And for hemp oil, the only one that I'm going to use is called Hemp Select. There's a lot of quality control issues with CBD and hemp, but the Hemp Select is brilliant. And
And this is one that
we
has THC in it.
no THC. It has 3 to 5 capsules of that. That'll give 30 to 50 milligrams of CBD. But we talk about CBD in the hemp oil, but there are over 10 active cannabinoids. So for those of you who enjoy marijuana, and aren't going to be arrested for doing it, enjoy. It's a very good way to help sleep. But like most things, don't overdo it. See how you feel the next morning. That will tell you what's optimal.
And then also, does it, if they're using it as a sleep crutch,
Hmm.
again, there are other things, and I want to talk a little bit about other things that people can do in their days and their behaviors to be able to prepare them better and have their bodies more prepared for sleep. Like when you start having a crutch, be it I have to smoke a joint before I go to bed, sleeping pills that people get, I think, as much psychologically addicted to in some ways as they do physically addicted to. Um, Talk about, like, how do you get off of that? How do you avoid that habit?
Well,
You
the simple
get
sleep
anxiety
hygiene.
wearing that you won't fall asleep if you don't do it.
Yeah, it's, the whole thing about addictions and crutches, you have to take a look at the end of the day is how is it working for you? Because we tend to put these judgmental labels, a word like crutch, as opposed to a tool,
Mhm.
talking about the same thing. So,
Leave it to me. Crutch.
so yeah, exactly. So when does it stop serving you? How's it working out for you? Those are really the questions I'm going to look at. What harm is it doing versus what benefit? So for the sleep medications, standard ones like the Dalmane, Valium family medications, those are addictive. They stop working over time. They're problematic. You have shorter lifespans than people who do those. But for people with severe trouble initiating sleep, Ambien, as long as you don't mind, dancing naked down the street, and that 1 in 1,000 people who tend to do that.
Sleep walk,
Um,
sleep stack, sleep drive, sleep.
yeah, stuff like that. But for most people, it there it's not so much addictive as this rebound insomnia, and that's the main downside. But the studies don't show the loss of, that you die younger with it, like with a lot of the others. Uh, and some people can be very helpful for initiating sleep. Very low dose trazodone, cyclobenzaprine, some of these other medications can be helpful. But again, so I much prefer the natural remedies because that's all that most people need is sleep hygiene routine, make the time, use the natural remedies if needed, you know, simple things. But also for those of you who wake up in the middle of the night, 2 in the morning, that's often low blood sugar. And just eating a protein, I'm going to underline protein, not carb, protein snack at bedtime, like a hard boiled egg or a little bit of meat or fish, will maintain your blood sugars during sleep so it doesn't plummet and wake you up in the middle of the night.
Is it you wake up? I mean, a lot of people wake up because they have to go to the bathroom.
A lot of people
How do they
do,
know
but
the difference between that blood sugar and the pee?
if you're going to wake up, especially with a sweat, or if
Mhm.
you're waking up wide awake,
Mhm.
that's the adrenaline release from the low blood sugar. Where if you're just like, oh, I gotta pee, and you kind of stagger over and back, that's gotta pee. But the thing is, a lot of people, everybody's bladder is full in the middle of the night, and people waking up from other reasons, and they notice their bladder is full, and they think that's why they woke up, and then they go play, and the bladder is like a baby. So if you woke up a baby 3 times a night to play, it will pretty soon start waking you up 3 times a night to play.
Right.
So if you wake up and you feel like you have to pee, ignore it for a minute or two. Often you'll roll over, go back to sleep, and not have pee even as much when you wake up in the morning. But if a minute or two later you still got to go, then go.
Right. Okay. So I'm getting a bunch of questions from people. Let me remind people and invite people to ask questions. A whole bunch of people are asking about dreaming and crazy dreams, and
Hmm.
do they have to worry about if they've got crazy dreams, or
Mm-mm-mm.
get distracted by crazy dreams, or does that tie to any other sleep problems
Hmm.
at all?
Yeah, so let's talk about nightmares. Nightmares are awesome. I know. Huh? So, number one, nightmares can be triggered by low blood sugar. So, initially, again, eat the 1 ounce or 2 ounce protein snack at bedtime, see if that helps. But for the psyche, routinely nightmares are reflecting a time of personal growth.
Let me clarify. Nightmare, I think of a nightmare as something scary, like I just got hit by a truck. And
Mhm.
is a nightmare even, I'll call it something kooky, like some weird connection? So I just want to know what, like, so
That's scary.
scary, seriously scary. Okay, it's blood
Yeah,
sugar.
because what's happening is different parts of your psyche. We think of ourselves as, "Hi, I'm Jacob," like it's like one thing,
Right.
but there's a whole forest of personalities that make up each of us. There's all these different characteristics, and they have their interplay, interaction, and integration that goes on, and this occurs during sleep. So the nightmares are often kind of a shift in the balance and of the different aspects of who we are, of them coming into kind of a coming togetherness, a wholeness. So the nightmares, although they may be uncomfortable, are often, very often, a reflection of personal growth, and take it in that way.
And how about other just bizarre psychic
Un
dreams?
Understand,
Bizarre?
we have our concept of how things
Right,
are rational, logical,
right.
sequential. This is our, in this platform of reality that we're on, that's kind of how it works. Our senses are geared to interpret everything that way, and our society really focuses on what's rational. If it's irrational, it's somehow bad. Well, most art is irrational because it's reflecting that vaster part of ourselves than just a little microscope of the mind. And the part of the psyche that's going out to play while we're sleeping is not the rational mind. It's the much, much, much bigger part of us that finally gets to be itself. And it's not going to be rational. And thank God it's not.
Should people, like, if they have those, just, kind of like meditation, when ideas come through, just let them pass and go, oh, that's funny? Or should they write them down if they wanted to learn from them later? I mean, because there's a whole study of dreams. Like,
Yeah.
it can become a distraction. Some people are very vivid dreamers, some people not so much. But if you wake up in the middle of the night, you got some weird dream, you don't want it to hold you from going back to sleep.
Well, you can have a little tape recorder, with your phone. We'll have a tape recorder setting, and you can just mumble the dream into the phone, enough that you can understand it. And that'll help bring it back the next morning without keeping you wide awake. If you want to do the dream interpretation, a couple things to remember. Everything in your dream is you. So if you dream of somebody else, like Joe coming after you with a knife, Joe is you in your dream. It's a
Right.
representation, a part of your psyche.
Right.
And then the part that's being stabbed is a different part of the psyche that is undergoing a conflict with that part of yourself. Conflict isn't bad here.
Right.
So it's all you in the dream. And if you
Oh,
start from
fascinating.
that,
Yeah.
you're
Oh,
going
a
to,
fascinating movie.
oh, is what?
A fascinating movie.
It is a fascinating movie. And understand also that what you're feeling in the dream has nothing to do with what's going on.
Yeah.
The imagery stands by itself. The feelings don't tell you much. So it's all you. Ignore the feelings because that's a different part of your mind reacting to the imagery, and just look at the imagery and get a feel, and let your brain won't figure it out. I suspect the reason the imagery is irrational is because it doesn't want to have to all be filtered through the brain. It wants to be itself. And just see how it feels, see how the imagery feels, and you'll be amazed. There's a part of you that knows how to interpret dreams. For me, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to go in kind of a heart-centered space, which is not saying I like this part of myself and hating that part of myself, because as soon as you do that, that part of yourself is going to disappear into the unconscious. Go love every part of yourself. Go and not kill it and find it and change it and destroy it, but to simply get to know it and love it. And they will all come to you. There's nothing that doesn't love to be unconditionally loved. Love it all, and then just let the feelings guide you, and you'll be amazed at how you're going to start noticing that you can get a sense of what these dreams are doing. I mean, my wife, as she has the dreams, it's the morning, honey. So, okay, what does that dream mean? It's like, okay.
But that's the thing. Again, back to kind of people being like, we want to sleep, but people that have sleep problems almost become afraid of sleep. But if you really look at sleep as this delicious time of regrowth, rebirth, like fascinating movies in our minds,
Mhm.
it's like its own micro vacation,
Yeah, it's the bestest movie ever, and it's all about us.
and it doesn't cost any money.
Indeed.
Um, so you mentioned night sweats, and some people are asking about night sweats. So talk about that for a little bit, because that's often hormonal and blood sugar as well. Yes.
Yes, night sweats reflect adrenaline release in the middle of the night. So the drops in blood sugar will do that. Drops in estrogen, progesterone will do that because it triggers an autonomic shift. That's why you get the hot flashes. Acid reflux at nighttime will do that. So if you're noting that some heartburn with it, then there's good ways to take care of that. That'd be a good topic for another show's indigestion, nighttime reflux also. So simple things like that, and
I think like when
infections.
you wake up at like 2 in the morning with like dripping wet.
Yes, so those three things and infections. Candida infection is most common. So if you have postnasal drip, chronic sinusitis or nasal congestion, or gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, that suggests candida overgrowth. That will wake people up with sweats in the middle of the night too.
So if all those people that are out there that are asking about this night sweat thing, they're going, now what do I do? Who do
Okay.
they go, who do they talk to, and how do they figure out which it is?
Find a holistic doctor. Number one, if you're a woman in your 40s, 50s, and you're finding that you have more fatigue, achiness, headache, poor sleep around your menses, then you're getting perimenopausal. And I'm really a good big proponent of the bioidentical hormone replacement, not this poison that the pharmaceuticals are pushing. And most holistic doctors can take care of that for you. You try the bioidentical hormones, the problem goes away, diagnosis made. Eat the protein snack at bedtime and hard-boiled egg or two, see if that helps. Diagnosis made. Um, if you have the nasal congestion, gut symptoms, then treat the candida. If you look at the Cures A to Z app, just look up candida or sinusitis or irritable bowel syndrome. We'll talk about that, and it takes care of that. Take half a teaspoon of Arm& Hammer baking soda and 2 ounces of water before you go to bed, and take some melatonin. Um, and that will shut off stomach acid and decrease nighttime reflux. And that takes care of the problem. Diagnosis made.
Okay, there you go. And let's talk about, in the time we have left, other ways, other strategies to help people with their sleep and prepare their body for sleep. And you've in Real Cures, Real Causes, Real Cures, you talk about there are a bunch of behavioral things like exercise. I mean, but exercising in the morning, not at night, and other things through the day that people should be doing.
Yes, again, you want to, just like the kids, you want to run the kids and exhaust them during the day and then nighttime. But you don't want to do the adult form of running, which is to worry about all kinds of stuff. Let it more be play, being active, doing things that you love. And if you're very busy doing things you love, not that you should again be doing, um, then by nighttime you're going to be tired and ready for sleep.
Gotcha. Okay. And you talked already about listing your problems. Like you talk about, doing away with, making a list of the things that you love and the things you don't. Um, I find also helpful, I think this is connected to that, where you just write down, have a piece of paper by your bed and write down whatever it is that's flying through your head so you can put that aside.
Absolutely, because when there's more than three things flying through our head, we feel out of control. The brain can juggle three balls at once. And when you throw the fourth one and suddenly it's just all whirling around you, and it's just like diffuse, amorphous, and some people anxiety, but stuff. So the simple act of putting them on paper, okay, this, what's going, this, you write them all down. You've taken them off your mind, you put them on paper, and you can even have it in a form of, things to address later, to-do lists, so I don't have to remember, oh, I've got to go get this because they're out of toilet paper or whatever. Make your list. Take it off your mind, put it on paper, and let yourself be ready for sleep.
And then we talked about a consistent bedtime and consistent routine. How about this? People are locked up. There's great things about being home, and then there's the tensions at home. And they always say, don't go to bed mad. And I think that's something to talk about as well. I mean, you and your wife just sound like you've got the greatest relationship. But like, I know in my house, like if I'm mad about what if my kids, my husband, if something emotionally in my family is bothering me, I cannot fall asleep. I have got to get that resolved and ease that because it's just eats inside.
And it's funny, where to me, I can sleep on it, it goes away. So my wife Lori
That
is
was
like
my
you,
problem. Right.
never go away, man. And for me, it's like, unless we want to strangle each other tonight, I'm going and sleeping over there. So
Right.
it's a different thing, and it's very personal to each
Yeah.
person. So see what works the best for you and for you as a couple,
Yeah.
and go with that. There's not a hard and fast, you know.
All right. That's why I ask these questions. I think because everyone has their things and everyone has their stuff in their mind. All right, let's talk about some of this, like supplements. We talked a little about protein at night. But what about some other nutritional supplements? Magnesium. We've talked. Magnesium or CalMag, or what are some other things?
Magnesium, 200 milligrams a night is awesome for sleep.
Just magnesium or calcium and magnesium?
No, just magnesium.
Okay.
No, again, some people find a little bit of calcium at nighttime helps. I don't like people taking calcium on its own because I think
Hmm.
it's not healthy.
Right.
If you're going to take calcium, there should be a magnesium and preferably vitamin D in it, wrapped together at the
Mhm.
same time, so it goes to
Right.
your bones and not to your blood vessels. So some people find calcium helps at night. In that case, I would prefer a glass of milk to a calcium pill. But magnesium, 200 milligrams, awesome at bedtime. For those who get the hangry during the day, the adrenoplex will smooth that right out, the adrenal highs and lows and fatigue. And at nighttime, the sleep tonight or phosphatidylserine about 60 to 90 minutes before, bring that stress hormone down so you can sleep. Again, revitalizing sleep formula and terrific Z's, those two herbal mixes, hemp oil like hemp select or just whatever preference. I mean, I prefer tequila myself, but you know.
Um, no wonder you challenge me on the alcohol. Let me go back to the hemp for a second, or the smoking of the pot, because you said the hemp oil you like does not have THC in it, and
Mhm.
yet if you're smoking it or however else you're taking, full on marijuana, there is THC. So THC is, you don't care one way or another. Is it helpful or is it a hindrance because the hemp oil
Mm.
that you like does
I,
not have it in it?
I grew up in the 60s and made me paranoid, so
Yeah,
it doesn't work for me.
right.
But for those that it works for, it does. So what I'm going to say for all of these things is, how do you feel the next morning?
Hmm.
Do you feel hungover and dopey, or do you feel refreshed like you had a good night's sleep?
Hmm.
And that will answer you for each of these better than I or any other doctor can. Listen to your body. How's it working for you?
Right. Gotcha. All right. How about essential oils? Um,
Um, yep, the terrific Z's, terrific ZZZZ. It's a mix of 4 essential oils. So it'll include things like ravensara, lavender. It'll have the mandarin. It'll have a mix of different things. That, and essential oils are great. You can even spray some lavender, real lavender, not chemical, oil on your pillow. The
mhm.
smell of lavender has been shown to help ease people into sleep. So whether you're taking it by mouth, whether you just have a dried lavender, spray by, or bottle in a vase, whatever it is, that smell of lavender is for hundreds of years, maybe millennia now, been used to help induce and maintain sleep. A little lavender sachet you put under your pillow. Be
Yeah.
creative, have fun.
Diffusers, whatever, touch
Hmm.
it, touch it at your pulse points.
Yeah,
Um,
put a little bit on your lip, under your nose.
there you go. Snort it. No. Melatonin. A lot of people, you mentioned it before, and actually we mentioned it the other day that it actually has some benefits
COVID.
for COVID. Yes. So
Hmm.
talk about that for a sec.
Absolutely. Melatonin is a hormone that regulates our day-night cycle, or one of the main ones anyway, and initiates sleep. It tells your body that it's time to go into sleep mode. But melatonin is a very powerful antioxidant and has multiple immune effects. It also affects the autonomic dysfunction. We talk about the sweats. When you have those sweats at night, that's autonomic dysfunction. And I know that's a big word, and that's a whole nother topic anyway. But so the melatonin settles all of that down, and all it takes to get the full effect is 3/10 of a milligram. That will bring you up to where your body normally would be. And for the first 20 years of my practice, I kept people at that because we didn't have enough experience to know if there would be downsides or danger with the higher doses. But 40 years later, we've not seen a single problem with it. So, and there are benefits. I personally will take 5 milligrams of melatonin at nighttime. Decreases acid reflux at night, helps sleep, can decrease. There's evidence suggesting that it helps even with the COVID infections.
And I think
Um,
preventing the COVID is what I'm hearing.
yeah, prevention, but also if you have it, and helping the immune function. In other words, it's reasonable. I take 5 milligrams a night, but if I came down with COVID symptoms, I would bump it to 20 milligrams a day. So it
How
goes.
about, as you're talking about, so melatonin levels, does if you if people are vitamin D deprived or they're not out in the sunshine, so back to the behavioral, should they be sure to get some sunshine every day, which will then again help with the rhythms and help with the the melatonin production and everything else?
Yes, the current advice to avoid sunshine is insane. Literally, people look back and they go, "Were their doctors insane?" And they're going, we'll look back just like in the old days of cutting open holes in the skull to let out evil spirits
Yes.
and it'll be on that kind of level of insane. So avoid sunburn, not sunshine, and getting the sunshine during the day helps keep your day-night rhythms
Mhm.
staying as day-night rhythms instead of the nighttime feeling like it's day and vice versa. So yes, sunshine, good.
Sunshine, good. Okay. Um, and then last thing, environment. You talk a little bit about a hot bath and a cold room.
Yep. So your body has to drop its temperature to sleep. So you'll find that setting the thermostat in the 60s, see what feels best for you, will help deepen the sleep quality. Um, a hot bath, especially if you add a cup or two of Epsom or magnesium salts, will dramatically relax your muscles at bedtime. So for those of you moms out there who are like crazy busy doing, the work, mom, everything together, make that nighttime routine your reward time. And this is when let your husband or somebody else take care of the kids, make sure they're all asleep. Draw yourself a hot bath, not so much in the summertime, but put in a cup or two of Epsom salts, maybe put in some lavender oil, get yourself a glass of wine or whatever you like, light some candles, have some calm, enjoyable music, even a little piece of chocolate. Yes, it has theobromine, but it's okay. It's not enough to keep you up when you're doing this. Reward yourself and just let your body go, oh, and all that stuff in the day, let it just fade away and disappear and stuff,
That
you
sounds
know.
lovely.
And then rinse yourself off for the magnesium salts. Um, don't go right to sleep because you'll sweat after that kind of thing. So wrap yourself in a nice terry robe or something. Watch something calming and enjoyable and funny or whatever your romance, whatever your preference is, and ease to sleep.
I'm half asleep now.
There you go.
You should do nighttime with Jake, like nighttime sleep.
Yeah, I know. I know. I've done a successful exercise in teaching when I've put my audience to sleep.
Oh, I hope they don't get you to sleep. Last shot, anyone, if you've got questions for Jake. He will be back again, no doubt. We had so much fun together. Do you want to say one last word at all, just a reminder about sleep and immunity? Again,
Yes.
in the day of COVID, it's just so critical as they're looking for drugs and looking for treatments that we have the strongest immune system that we can to protect ourselves.
Again, you have a room full of people, you take a bunch of people with AIDS, throw them in. Only 1 out of 3 people in the room will catch the infection. Of those 30% that get the infection, only half will have any symptoms to speak of. So you want to be in that 85% who either doesn't get it or who never even knew they had it. How? 1, optimizing sleep, because that's when the immune troops are out there and doing their things. One of the most powerful ways to immune suppress an animal is to sleep deprive it. And we are now getting 30% less sleep on average as a nation than we did 200 years ago. So get your sleep, number 1. And again, take a good multivitamin that has zinc, vitamin C, a little bit of vitamin A, and vitamin D, because those things are going to really powerfully affect your immune system. I like the energy revitalization system is an excellent one for that. It's a simple powder mix. And it's all in there. It's one drink and you're not taking 50 pills. So these simple things, and also get a sense of humor. Constantly being stressed all day by watching the fiction that we have on our TV set that calls itself reality. Um, is really hard on your immune system because your immune system doesn't distinguish between this real and fictional threat and is constantly on overdrive, thinking there's something to defend against when there's not.
Right.
Stand down, soldier, let the immune system relax. Everything is really fine. Turn off the stuff that you watch that leaves you feeling bad. Your immune system will relax and then be there when you need it at full strength.
Perfect. Thank you. Hey, give me your website again. I forgot to say it before, vitality101.com, right?
Vitality101.com, or for products, it's endfatigue.com.
Gotcha. And the Cures A to Z is the free iPhone app or app for Android and iPhone. And Dr. Jake Teitelbaum, thank you so much for your wisdom. Everybody, don't forget, we'll be back again. I think next week, this might be on Wednesday. We're supposed to be with Dr. Max Gomez. Hopefully he'll be able to do it and won't be pulled onto TV. And we're going to talk about the latest news in the treatments and the whole fight against COVID with him. And go to the YouTube channel, share this, let people know about it, and always put comments up about what else you'd like to hear about. And thank you so much for being here. Jake, thank you so much.
They're always a pleasure. Be well, everybody.